All right, good morning, you guys. This morning I want to make a video about a young woman that I have met in the past few years. Her name is Lisa, and Lisa was a friend of my son. They were sometimes boyfriend and girlfriend. They were both addicted to pain medication and receiving boatloads of pain medication from the doctors, I might add. But anyway, the reason that I want to talk about Lisa is because Lisa is someone that I met that told me that her father sold children in cages in LA, Los Angeles, California. And so I wanted to share this with people because she absolutely convinced me. Lisa had no intention of telling people about her father. And what she did later tell me, after my son passed away, she and I had a conversation, and she said, I want you to know that Michael made me feel safe enough to tell him about what happened to her when she was growing up. And so Lisa was a bank president of one of the local banks. And the reason that I say that, I'm making a point of saying that she was a bank president, is because she was very successful, but she was also addicted to pain medication. And she had an abusive boyfriend. When she was off with the abusive boyfriend, she would, go and see my son. And anyway, my son, he wanted to help her. He wanted to help her get out of that relationship. But in the meantime, Lisa told him that her father literally sold children in cages in Los Angeles. And so when she told him that, he was like, we have to go tell my mother. And so he drug her over to my house, and they, came in to tell me. And I will never forget what Lisa looked like as she told me, what little bit that she told me. And, I just have to say that she didn't tell me very much. She couldn't. Like, her body wouldn't let her. And she was about to have a complete breakdown as it was. Her body was, trembling from head to toe. She was sobbing. She could hardly talk. And, but what she said was that her father sold children in cages, and that he would sometimes put her in a cage and sometimes threaten to sell her along with the other children. And so I don't know how Lisa escaped. She didn't tell me that part, but she did escape the Los Angeles area, and she did a complete name change and social security number change. And you have to go through the government to get your social security number changed, and of course through the courts to get your name changed. And I don't know how she accomplished those things, but she did. And so she was living under a completely different name and social security number. She did go on to marry. She had a family, and she became a bank president. And when she was a mother, she was thriving. She loved her children passionately. She was very involved in their lives. But the husband-wife thing didn't work out. So she separated from her husband and took up with this other young man that was abusive. And he would beat her often. And when he would, she would go and see my son. And anyway, that was, you know, a cycle. And anyway, I did move. We were neighbors for probably about 3 years, and I moved, and so I did still stay in contact with Lisa. But after my son passed away, I saw her a couple of times, and the last time that I went to go see her, it broke my heart. And I'm telling you guys, you know, I make videos about fraudulent accounts on social media about situations just like what Lisa lived. And when you know somebody that really happened to, and you see the effects of it, she was addicted to pain medication, and her life was a mess. You know, she could not tell about what her father was doing, and she said, to her knowledge, that, you know, all these years later, and it had to be, you know, I'm guessing from the age of her children and giving it some time in between, that it was probably around 18 years. She said, as far as I know, he's still doing that. But she also gave me her word that she would never tell. And I didn't even try to think of trying to get her to say. The last time that I saw Lisa, she'd been beaten up by the boyfriend again. And she was at our mutual friend's house. And I just happened to go visit the mutual friend that night, and Lisa was there. Lots of crying going on. I pled with her, Lisa, get out. One of the last things that I said to her, Beb, just because your life has been shit before now doesn't mean that it can't get worse, because it can. Please get out. Don't go back. Lots of crying going on. So I had a deep connection with this young woman. She was a good friend to my son. She had a horrific testimony in childhood. And she was going downhill fast. And just about every time that I listened to one of these videos from a fraudulent social media account, I remember her. And I have this visual of children in cages. I can see it in my head. So every time I listen to these fraudulent testimonies on social media, and I go back and I think about Lisa, and I think about children that are in cages, it's about all I can do to make a decent video about it, to tell you the truth. Well, I'm going to end this video now with you guys knowing the testimony of Lisa. And I pray for Lisa, so I know that somewhere along the line, God will get a hold of her, and one day she'll be okay. I don't know if that day has already happened. I don't even know if she's still alive or not. But this is the reality of what happens whenever, someone has truly been put in a situation of child trafficking. They change their name, they change their social security number, they change their location, and they don't go on social media and tell everyone about it. And if you're telling yourself, well, the way that these people are handling it, if they go on social media, they're protecting themselves, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in the future. That's just a bit too much for this video for now. But I do want to leave people with knowing Lisa and knowing that there are truly children being trafficked. They are truly being sold in cages. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on what we truly know. Lord bless you guys in Jesus' name.